let's take a look at what stories we got here. Mr. Torso, Miss Torso, Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women, that's a mouthful. The Dritiphilist, Makak, Makak, the mother, the wrong guy, the baby, the the McCrath model SS40-C Series S. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Canine Cannibalism. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Brain Cheese Buffet by Edward Lee. Now, obviously, you can't read that title because the cover is covered. And that's because there's titties, like right here, smack dab in the center. So I don't think YouTube will be too happy with me if I were to keep those there. Thus, the cover is covered, which is actually a tragedy because I really fucking dig the cover. It's weird and psychedelic and Lovecraftian. It's by a guy named Alan M. Clark, I'm pretty sure. So kind of unfortunate that I can't show it to you, but the next best thing, and I apologize for flashbanging you there. I'm using my phone flashlight for this. You can look at the back. Wow, you can almost read a fucking couple words there. That's epic. So, the book is 139 pages. That's numbered, unless you count things like the table of contents and the about the author note at the end pages. But if you don't, it's 139 pages numbered. There are 9 stories in the book. And in case you didn't hear those names at the beginning because you were too doubled over at the incredible display of comedy, I'm going to read them for you again. The titles of the stories are as follows: Mr. Torso, Miss Torso, Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women, The Dritiphilist, Makak, The Mother, The Wrong Guy, The Baby, and the McCrath Model SS40-C Series S. Now, today we are going to be doing a myriad of different things. We're going to be doing a trigger warning first and foremost, so if you are like me and you are into the splatterpunk and extreme horror, but you are sensitive to certain topics, you will be well informed before your purchase, or mostly well informed. I would do some more digging before just trusting my word for it, but you'll be more well informed. We're also going to be doing a read and review section. At least that's what I call it. It's just like after I read a section of the book, I immediately review it, give you my fresh thoughts and all that. We're also going to be doing a spoiler-free review at near the end, and then we're going to be doing an in-depth and spoiler-full review after that, where I will dive into all the stories and tear them apart and put them back together and tell you what I love and hate about each of them. And if all that sounds great, then stick around, please. Like and subscribe. I would love it. It would be very nice, and I would appreciate it very much. So, without further ado, let's jump right in to that trigger warning. If you were to pick up a copy of this book and read it, you would find a fucking shit ton of gore, torture, mutilation, and death. Now, there is a fuck ton of gore, torture, mutilation, and death in most splatterpunk books and extreme horror books. But the difference is this is a collection of short stories, and you got to get all of that gore, torture, mutilation, and death that happens to the main characters from a book into a teensy tiny little fucking short story. So there's like 9 times as much in this book, or at least there's 7 or 8. There's a couple of stories that aren't really that gory, but you know. So if that stuff affects you, I would just not pick this book up. Then you got a fucking shit ton of sexual assault and abuse, including forced impregnation and forced birth. If forced impregnation and forced birth affect you, I would personally skip maybe The Mother and definitely Mr. Torso. If the sexual assault and abuse stuff affects you, I would say maybe skip the whole book, except for the Dritiphilist. Maybe. That's on the line. So maybe just don't pick this one up if that affects you. Next up is child abuse. You got physical child abuse and then sexual child abuse. Now, with the sexual stuff, it's mostly just descriptions of stuff, but then in the baby, there's a little bit of actual, like, in the foreground sexual child abuse stuff. But if that affects you, I would say probably mainly skip Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women and Makak and then the baby. Other than that, you should be mostly okay. I can't promise anything, but those are the three bad ones for that, if I remember correctly. Then we have gross out stuff. That includes descriptions of people eating things they shouldn't be eating, like vomit, shit, piss, hair, fucking garbage and roadkill. Uh, that kind of shit. And then you have a fuck ton of descriptions of fetishes, and they're not really gross. They're more clinical. Like if you were to look up what does this word mean, Google would be like, oh well, that's the sexual attraction to knee hair, that kind of shit. And you have the Dritiphilist to thank for that. And trust me, I will talk about that in detail later. And then the last thing, I did not write this down, but it affects me personally, and I'm sure there are other people that it affects as well. So if people being accused of a sexual crime they did not commit, especially a man being accused, affects you, uh, then I would say probably skip the baby because that happens in that, and it's not very fun. I was able to get through it, but there are probably some people with that kind of with an aversion to that kind of content that are out there that have it worse than me. I would say skip that one definitely. And that's about it for our trigger warning. So let's jump right into that read and review, fresh fucking thoughts section thing that I was talking about earlier. See you in a second. God, that was cringe. See you in a few. No, that also fucking sucks. Back in a flash. How about you just fucking roll the clip? All right, fellow degenerates, let's jump into the first read and review section of this video. So, I'm about halfway through Brain Cheese Buffet by Edward Lee, and I have read Mr. Torso, Miss Torso, Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women. I believe that's the title. I can never fucking remember the exact title, but I'm 90% sure that's the title. The Dritiphilist and Makak or Makak. I'm assuming it's Makak like the monkey, but so initial thoughts. Mr. Torso and the Dritiphilist are tied for my least favorite thus far. I will talk more about why specifically, especially regarding the Dritiphilist in the review section. And then Miss Torso is next. I mean, I kind of enjoyed Miss Torso, but it wasn't my favorite by any means. And I feel like Mr. and Miss Torso, I don't even know if they would be considered extreme horror. They have some extreme horror elements, but so do a lot of Stephen King books. It's got that gritty feel, if you know what I'm talking about, but it's not like super over the top or anything. Um, Makak, whatever, would be next in my rating, and then I really fucking liked Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women. The world building in that, and also in Makak, to a lesser degree, I thought was very, very good. I caught myself thinking a lot that it would be a lot better if it wasn't extreme horror and if it was actually taken and ran with in a better direction that wasn't just fueled by extreme portions of sexual violence. Um, but the more that I think about it, the more I think that the cheesy, over the top plot and world building and shit where everything's just kind of wacky actually lends itself better to extreme horror. But I really fucking liked that story. I would be absolutely shocked if that does not end up being my favorite story in the entire book. I'd be delighted if it's not, if there's something better, but I am almost certain that that would be my favorite. but you will find out my ranking at the end. I'm sure I already said that, or after this rather, in the review section, I will rank them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. See you in a second. Hi there, I'm back. Obviously for you, no time has passed. You're watching a fucking video, but it's been 2 months for me since that last clip. I took a hiatus from reading, which probably is not the best considering I'm trying to be consistent about a YouTube channel, but I'm back now, so that's something. I finished Brain Cheese Buffet by Edward Lee. Um, I hope I touched on this in the beginning, but this is censored for a reason. When we last spoke, I had just finished reading Makak, or Makak, again. Never figured out how to pronounce it. I looked it up, couldn't find a single use of the word in the context that the book used it in, so for me, it's Makak. You could pronounce it however the fuck you want. I don't care. It's Makak, for me, personally. That's my pronunciation of it. Since we last spoke, I have read The Mother, The Wrong Guy, The Baby, and get ready for this fucking mouthful, the McCrath Model SS40-C Series S, which henceforth I will be labeling as the SS40-C or the SS40 or the Series S, whatever I feel like in the moment, really. So, finished it. General thoughts. I got some grapes. We'll talk about those grapes after this. Overall, it was fun. But because it's a collection, it's an anthology or whatever the fuck. I don't know what the term is for a book. It's an anthology if it's a movie, but I can't remember if an anthology is like multiple writers combined into one or one writer. I don't fucking remember. It doesn't matter. I think it's a collection. Point is, because it's a collection, some of the stories are good. Some of them are not. At least personally, to me. And that means that my opinion of the book is extremely mixed as a whole, so I will try to grade it more on the stories themselves than Brain Cheese Buffet as a whole. But I'm still gonna grade the book as a whole. So actually, fuck everything I just said. I'll do whatever the fuck I want, honestly, because this is my fucking show I'm running here. So let's just do a quick final rating of the books based on my personal or the stories rather, based on my personal enjoyment of them. It's gonna go Grub Girl in a Prison of Dead Women, by far my favorite. Then it's gonna be The Mother. Then it's gonna be The Wrong Guy. Then it's gonna be probably Makak. Then it's going to be Miss Torso and the SS40 tied. Those two are tied because they're like the same general feel for this of story. Um, then it's going to be the Dritiphilist. Then it's going to be the Baby. Then at the very bottom, Mr. Torso. Now, if we were ranking these stories based on actual authorship, writing merit, the Baby would definitely be higher than the Dritiphilist and would almost certainly be higher than Miss Torso and the SS40. However, as that was my personal rating, I have some personal gripes with that story, none of which are the author's fault. That's just my personal preferences. I don't particularly enjoy the subject matter in that story. Didn't like that one very much. Didn't like Mr. Torso very much at all. I got a lot of gripes with the other ones that are lower on that list, and just some things with the stories in general that I didn't like very much. But a lot of them I really did like. A lot of the ones close to the top I really did enjoy reading, despite being fucked up as they were. At least most of them. We'll talk about that as well. Trust me. How many of these were actually extreme horror and how many weren't. But yeah, I mean that's it for your read and review pal right here. And yeah, let's switch it over to our final review, shall we? Wow, that was a fun read and review fresh fucking thoughts section. You know what? From now on, I'm just gonna call it the fresh fucking thoughts section. How about that shit? So you saw my original thoughts about the book after I finished reading it. Now you're gonna have noticed that I pretty much already did a spoiler-free review in that second fresh thoughts section. Actually, yeah, I like the sound of that. Fresh thoughts section. We're gonna go with that from now on. So you probably already caught that. That was most of what I have to say I already said. I I liked a lot of the stories. There were a couple that I did not like, namely the Dritiphilist. I mean, you saw my rating already. All those close to the bottom, I just got a lot of problems with. So we're gonna jump right into a spoiler full review real quick, and we're gonna break down the stories in this book and talk about why I loved and did not love the ones that I loved and did not love. So first up on the chopping block is Mr. Torso. We're just gonna go in chronological order of the book. Mr. Torso. There's a bunch of philosophical mumbo jumbo in that fucking chapter that I tried to look up and understand and actually dissect, and I found that most of it is just fucking buzzwords. There were a couple of funny things because that came out of that, and one of them was the sentence, "Given life and all, that's what the Dick's not we're all's about." See? Oh yeah. And then the fucking guy, the main villain, is Southern, and the fucking drawl that the author writes him having is a pain to read, to say the least. On top of the fact that he's talking all philosophical and saying nonsense, I looked up a bunch of the fucking shit that was said, and it was nonsense. I could not find a single thing that, like, fucking actually made, like, here, fucking didactic solipsism. I looked up the word didactic solipsism, or the words, together. Couldn't find a single fucking thing. Looked up didactic, got a definition. Looked up solipsism, got a definition. Tried to put the two words together, I really couldn't fucking make it work because it's goddamn buzzwords. Other than that, I really did enjoy the story. It was kind of, I want to say bland, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would really consider it extreme horror. I mean, it's more true crime oriented. There's some sexual abuse stuff, forced impregnation, forced birth, as I already mentioned. But other than that, it's pretty tame. Unlike the next one, Miss Torso, which you saw was also kind of lower on my list. This one is, in fact, connected very loosely to the first story. I don't really have a lot of complaints about that one, honestly. It just seems more traditional extreme horror. I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it a super amount, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. Stuff about a fucking prostitute, lots of crass shit about involving sex. Again, nothing like super over the top. No like super sexual violence stuff. There was a mention of child sexual abuse in that story, but it was very brief. Um, it was pretty tame. I enjoyed myself with that one. Then we had Grub Girl in the Prison of Dead Women. I am going to fangirl so hard over this fucking story. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's really cheesy. It's really dumb. The writing is extreme horror writing. It's, as I'm coming to find, Edward Lee writing. It's not Pulitzer Prize winning or anything, but I really enjoyed that story. I enjoyed the world building, and I feel that if that story had been included in a book that wasn't extreme horror, I think I already said this, it would have gone so fucking hard. Like if that was stretched out a little more. Obviously the main plot of the book is like gang rape in a fucking prison, but other than that, I really just enjoyed the setup. I did. It was very nice. It didn't gross me out or anything. Lots of rape, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of rape and vulgar rape and fucking shit that you would never want to say out loud. But cool world building. I liked it. Then we got the Dritiphilist. Okay. The fucking Dritiphilist. Um, this story, the best I can describe it as is, I went through a phase freshman year of high school where I discovered gore and fetishes and scat, and I had an awakening phase long before I read extreme horror. Not really that long, but you'll never know how long it was. And this story reminds me so much of like what I tried writing at the time. I tried to write a little dictionary for one of my friends and for me more so of all the gross shit in the world. But then I just quickly came to find that there was too much gross shit. But this book, This fucking story is just descriptions of fetishes and descriptions of people who have fetishes for eating gross shit. And that is the whole fucking book, because the book revolves around a psychologist talking to a man with dritiphily, which I didn't even know was a fucking word, but it describes that whole subset of people who eat shit they shouldn't, eating garbage. I think it's what they said, drit meaning human filth or filth. And it's just descriptions. And a lot of the descriptions are very clinical because it's a fucking psychologist talking. You'd be better off Googling what are the worst fetishes on Google. I did not like that story very much. It wasn't the worst thing ever. I did actually enjoy some bits of it. The beginning and the ending were very good, but the middle bit where the fucking psychologist is just sitting there describing all of these fetishes to our protagonist, it felt unnecessary and boring. And that is the story that annoyed me the most. That's not the story I liked the least, but it's the story that annoyed me the most. So, after that, we had Makak, or Makak. Okay, so again, I looked up this fucking word. It's Makak. If anyone who is watching this knows what the fuck that is and how that is pronounced, that would be great. In the book, it is a little fucking... I don't even remember. It's the thing that they wear around their neck, and then this weird witch doctor says a bunch of chants or something. This weird African witch doctor says some chants, and they fucking come back from the dead. I don't remember, but I've been pronouncing it macaque because that's what it looks like. That story I also liked. I also liked that one very much. As you saw in the first read and review section, that was my second favorite after reading half of the book. I enjoyed a lot of the world building in that one. It was very fun. The story was fun. Again, that was more extreme horror coded. A lot of just Edward Lee writing, as I come to find. Which, by the way, his writing isn't bad. It's just kind of by the book style for extreme horror. I'll talk more about his writing at the end, actually. Then we had The Mother, which I really fucking loved, actually. Really good cosmic horror. That one was definitely not extreme horror, just some pretty descriptive sex scenes. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff in there, but nothing like worse than some of the shit I've read in Stephen King. Definitely nothing worse than some of the shit I've read in Stephen King books. After that one, you had The Wrong Guy. That one I also kind of liked a lot. It was pretty good, pretty fun, more extreme horror oriented, very good. There's some there's a fucking really good twist ending that I know this is a spoiler section. I'm still not going to spoil it for you. I didn't see it coming. It was really fucking random and funny. It's about two murderesses who kill men. It's pretty extreme for extreme horror. Yeah, it's not anything to fucking hold your nose up at. Maybe to plug your nose at. Huh? I'm a little jokester today. I'm a little prankster. Then we had the baby. I did not like that one, but that is more of a personal thing. I do not like reading, thinking, watching shit about men specifically being accused of sex crimes they did not commit. I have some issues in my nog that make me very paranoid about that kind of stuff. But I was able to get through it. I soldiered through, and the story itself isn't that bad. It's not bad. It's pretty good. Like I said, it would probably be pretty high on my list if I was just rating based on like the content and the way the stories were written. But personally, I didn't like that one very much. That is completely just a subjective personal thing. I guarantee you a lot of people like that one way more than a few of the others in this book that I liked more. And finally, we have the McCrath. We have the model SS40-C, or the SS40-C rather. That story is connected to Miss Torso, very much connected to Miss Torso, and then by shit, what's the word? Because the Mr. Torso and Miss Torso are connected, this one, the SS40-C is also connected, but it's not really connected to Mr. Torso because that one is very loosely connected to Miss Torso. It was good, again, like Miss Torso, very extreme horror coded, very gritty and gross. Lots and lots of descriptions of sexual abuse and on page, extreme violence, that kind of shit. It's about the mafia. You can probably fill in the blanks. They fucking stapled a woman's intestines to a man's mouth, and so she had diarrhea into his mouth directly from the fucking source. That was pretty fucking cool. Or horrifying. Both. coolifying. God, somebody stop me. I'm on a roll today. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the stories themselves. But let's talk about that writing real quick. So, Edward Lee's writing. It's, as I said, nothing Pulitzer Prize winning. But as a first time reader of Edward Lee, I enjoyed myself. He knows how to handle the English language in a way beneficial to his stories. A few typos towards the end, especially, or at least in that last story, the SS4-C, there were a few typos that I noticed. That's because I was reading that last story out loud, so I might have just noticed them more in that one than the other ones, but definitely some typos in that one. Can't exactly fault him for that. It didn't take away from the story at all. It wasn't like your fucking Zola out there with goddamn typos every other sentence near closer to the end. It was just like made it a chore. It was good overall. I like it. I'm looking forward to reading more of his books. He uses a lot of language, like not like vulgar. I mean, obviously vulgar, but like words that I've never heard before. That I didn't think this would be a source of new vocabulary, but it clearly has been, and not just those fucking didactic solipsism buzzwords and shit from the Mr. Torso. It was actually some like new words, and I kind of appreciate that, like having to look up words. I mean, it did get to a point where it was like every couple sentences, uh, and maybe that's because I don't read very much anymore. But I never figured this would be the book. Yeah, that's pretty much it for Brain Cheese Buffet. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe. It would be nice. I can almost promise you I will respond to your comments if you decide to comment, and I would very much appreciate it if you liked. Oh, and if you did not like the video, dislike it. Let me know. Let me know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like. I'm really working on saying too many times. I have that problem when I present in front of like people as well, like in classes. But yeah, just bear with me if you like this content. I'll try to be way more consistent with uploading. I'm gonna try to drop every month on the 25th. I think that's good. I got into that habit on accident with my first two videos. I can't remember if I actually dropped the second one on the 25th. It might have just been ready on the 25th, and then I dropped it like the next day. Whatever. This one's probably not going to get out till after the 25th of December, but in the future, I'm going to try to get it out by like the end of the month, the 25th to the 30th time, and it's going to be good. We're gonna have fun. I'm going to read more books. I got a book lined up out there, sitting there, all looking all pretty with its fucking leather bookmark in there. Woo-wee. I'm going to be dropping a YouTube short soon to show you a little inkling of what that book is, and by that I mean I'm going to show you the fucking whole ass book. And yeah, as always, please remember that my review of this book is a reflection of my opinions and my opinions alone. If you were to read this book, you might like some stories that I didn't like very much. You'd have some different opinions than me, and that's fine. That's great. Different opinions are great. Obviously, no anything towards Edward Lee aside from saying, hey man, you wrote a book. You're a successful author. Good stuff out there, but that's better than I've ever done with writing. So buy the book. I recommend you buy the book if it sounded interesting. Form your own opinions about the book. That'd be great. But yeah, I'm just some guy on the internet who's talking to you about this book. And if you like the video, like I said, just a few little buttons. And come on, just a few little buttons, please. Yeah. And remember, everyone, if you decide to solicit sex from a prostitute, maybe don't be like fucking Rosser here and do it while she's holding her baby under her arm. Like, I get it, bro. She was pushy, but come the fuck on, man. What were you thinking?